Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me.
Hello. I just woke up from a nap and I'm going to try to remain quiet because I have a lot of symptoms in my head right now. So I want to try to remain calm. I have a hard time when I start talking. I'm a very excitable person. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably be screaming by the end of the episode. But what I wanted to talk about today is loneliness. This is what my first meeting was about this morning, fending off loneliness. And then my second meeting was about step two. And I thought, well, that's very coincidental because for me, step two, without knowing it in the beginning, made a big impact on my feeling of loneliness over time. But it took time and it took practice, and it still takes practice. I also had my psychiatrist appointment this morning, and I was talking to her about how I feel not quite right um, emotionally. And so I was just like talking it out, and I was thinking, is it because, the holidays just passed and everybody was here and now they're not here? Is it because I moved to a new house and I'm feeling like kind of a fish out of water a little bit? Or it can't be because like I left all my friends or anything like that, because I didn't. All my friends are virtual, and I really didn't see hardly anybody in person throughout the past couple years of my stroke recovery. So I was sitting trying to figure out what it was. And for me, that is like a useless exercise because um I mean, sometimes when I sit and try to think about what is it that's making me feel a certain way, and I'm chasing that, I start thinking that I'm not feeling a certain way because there's something wrong, if that makes sense. Like, r- like relationship wise, there's nothing wrong. I start thinking that I might feel like there's something wrong because I don't feel good. Hmm, how about that? Um, I've gone through a lot of stuff, over the holidays, just having people here. I did mention in one of my episodes, I think, that my mom has been ill, and she is doing what she needs to do as far as treatment goes, and um, all things considering, she's doing well, very tired, but other than that, doing very well. It's really best case scenario in one of these kind of upsetting situations. But I think that when I start trying to chase what is wrong with me, um, I stop giving myself the grace to um, sit in it, to just be okay with the fact that things aren't okay. And I've talked about this in the past. If I didn't have hundreds of episodes, I'd go back and try to find that episode, but that would be impossible for me to go back and find that episode. Sometimes I just need to say, I'm not okay. And that's it. There's definitely an inside job that needs to be done, but I think that that can be done sometimes without me having to pinpoint something external that is wrong. I think that's what I have been trying to do, is when I was talking to the psychiatrist this morning was pinpoint externally what is wrong. And I am not quite sure that there is something externally that's wrong. I think internally, I have this quiet kind of feeling that is like it's like my body trying to respond to to me not feeling well. That when I don't feel well, and this was a really interesting conversation this morning. When I don't feel well, um, since it can't be seen by others and it can't be seen by me, it only can be felt. It takes a lot of convincing for me to believe that I don't feel well enough, that I need to change things and rest. So I need to nap every day. Um, and I need to take it easy. I need to spend less time on devices and make those types of changes. And after something like the holidays, that is what I need to do. That is historically, even though it's only been a couple years, what I need to do. I need to take a month off of being excitable Rachel, and I need to quiet down. Um, I was feeling like I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I was doing a lot of crafts, and one of the crafts is up over my head. If you're looking at the video, I had these I had these pictures that I ordered on Amazon, and they were all shades of red, and they were in my old kitchen at my last house. And I decided, oh, this would be a very meditative craft if I painted them with acrylic paint markers and changed the colors to match my bedroom. So that's what I did, and they turned out really well. It was a fun activity, and they're done. So I hung them on my wall, and there's one behind me, and I'm looking at the other one. Then I have that big canvas that I'm painting. I just finished up my crochet blanket that's hanging behind me. So I've like had all of these things that I'm doing, and I wondered, am I trying to fend off loneliness? And am I trying to fix something that I'm trying to fix the fact that I don't feel well by disguising it as loneliness or boredom? That makes sense to me. Um, so I was talking to her about how I need to start relaxing and make January a rest month. And back when I was working, that would have been fabulous for somebody to say, you know what, this month you get to rest. It would have been like, oh, sweet, you know? But now in recovery, I feel so much like I'm resting all the time that when I think, okay, January is going to be my rest month, what does that mean? It means that I have to nap during the day. I need to take naps every day. And so I have been starting to do that and setting my alarm. Setting my alarm is making it not so feeling like I'm sleeping through my life. So I'm just taking 2-hour naps, and that's been better. But what I told my psychiatrist is that I, because I can't see what's wrong with me, meaning if I'm starting to feel worse, it's not like I get I get a limp. So let me back up. Like when somebody has a stroke and loses their ability to walk or becomes paralyzed on one side, or has severe aphasia, it's something that that is more noticeable externally, if you know what I mean. And what's wrong with me is invisible. It truly is invisible. Nobody can see it. Doctors um, can't even see it. The only thing that they can see is that I had a stroke and that I have cells in my brain that are dead. Um, I was telling my psychiatrist that throughout my life, when something has been wrong, with me physically, it heals. It always heals. I've had that experience in, um, before my sobriety when I got sick or I hurt my ankle or anything that, or having a headache, anything like that. When something's wrong, I heal. Like my body is a machine and it just keeps moving. It just keeps working for me and it doesn't require a lot of maintenance. So I thought, I just have to eat, sleep, and it just keeps working. When I need to run, it runs. When I need to think, it thinks. When I need to grow, it grows. When I need to learn, it learns. Um, and when it's broken, it fixes itself. And then when I got into sobriety and I went to detox, I got, my liver tested and it was severely damaged and they weren't sure if it was going to heal. So I had to stay a bit longer in detox. And lo and behold, my liver started to heal. And, um, and since then it has healed to the point where it's back to what it should be. Like nothing was ever wrong. It's fascinating, actually. So my interpretation of that is, yeah, I was really hard on my body and I broke it, but it healed. So there you go. It healed again. And it healed so much that I started running 5Ks like 4 times a week. That's what the body does. And so fast forward to my stroke, I have had a hard time understanding that my body is not going to heal, that this isn't going to change. And I keep getting to the point, and we were talking about this in my vestibular support group yesterday. Sometimes I get to the point where I'm feeling well, so I push myself, waiting to push myself beyond my threshold so that I feel shitty again. Because I want to prove to myself, oh, you're still broken, if that makes sense. That I have not, I want to prove that I'm not better. And I think it's natural for me, but you guys know I'm just an overachiever and people say type A personality. I don't even know what that means, but apparently that's what I am. I'll have to look it up. I mean, I have looked it up before, but I don't really know a lot what that means. But so my mind just went blank, and we're gonna keep going until I figure out what I was saying. It's gone. See, this is what happens when I push myself beyond where I know I should. So I push myself and then I get worse and I get to the point where I am affected cognitively. That's when I know I've gotten past my threshold, when I start really not being able to finish sentences and finding words, and that has happened multiple times today. Um, and then I realize, okay, I'm still broken. And then I start feeling sorry for myself a little bit. And I think that's what's wrong. But what does it look like? For me, it looks a little bit like loneliness. and boredom. Um, Loneliness feels like a mental and emotional problem. It doesn't it what I mean by that is I'm not lonely because I'm alone. I'm lonely because I'm disturbed. It's a mental and emotional unwellness. Um, it's it's like what I learned in my program is when I have this feeling, I need to connect with people. So that's what I do. I try to do. I'm not always great at it. This podcast allows me to reach out and talk about what's going on with me without the exhaustion. This might come out bad, but the exhaustion of listening to somebody talk back to me. And that sounds terrible, but that's what I'm honest here. I try to be honest here. It's sometimes it's too exhausting. It feels like to pick up the phone and call somebody. I just don't have the energy. Um, Depending on who I'm talking to. Like I called my mom yesterday and that was lovely. I have the energy. I have limitless energy to talk to my mom. Um, but there are other people that I can call that exhaust me more, so I don't want to pick up the phone. Um, I have been, I also have limitless energy to talk to my sister. Yet, for the past 2 days, I have not been picking up the phone to call her. And we were gonna get on the phone and talk about the latest sermon that I heard at church. And I really want to do that, but I've been tired. And I don't know why I keep procrastinating and avoiding. It has nothing to do with her. It has to do with me. It's me. Um, I start narrowing my narrowing my desire to connect with people. I start convincing myself that I need rest and not connection. And it's hard for me to explain, but it's very real for me. I have this internal loneliness. In our program, we call it isolation. And I keep feeding it. And the worse that I feel physically, the more that I start isolating. So, what's interesting today is for me to think about the idea of isolation as it applies to sobriety and isolation in how it applies to my stroke recovery. Because in both cases, actually, when I'm not feeling well, I'm isolating. It's just that in sobriety, I'm not feeling well emotionally. I'm feeling that loneliness. I'm feeling that isolation, that pull to be alone. But I feel emotionally unwell. In stroke recovery, it starts with feeling physically unwell. And then somehow this feeling of unwellness trickles into my mental and emotional unwellness. And that's really kind of fascinating to me. I don't know. Sometimes I have little aha moments and I have a hard time articulating what that feels like. But I'm assured that when I talk about it, there's somebody out there that understands. Um, I'm disconnecting myself from other people. So this morning we were talking about loneliness, and I shared about how when I was younger, middle school through my 30s, I wrote poems. And all the poems are very morbid. I still have them, although one of my recovery fellowship members asked me if I would mind sharing them with her. And I thought, oh, you know what? I haven't seen them since we moved. So I'm not quite sure where I boxed them up, but I know that they're somewhere here. Anyway, I get a little nervous about sharing them. I'm embarrassed about them because I don't think they're good. They don't sound like professional poetry, even though I did it for years. What it did was it gave me an outlet to talk about my loneliness, talk about my sadness, and poetry gave a voice to something that I couldn't explain to other people. And today, that draw to isolate myself is still that same thing, that same feeling that I don't know how to tell other people, or I don't even want to try. I don't even want to attempt to say to somebody, um, I don't feel like talking. I want to be alone, because I know it's not the next right thing. I don't write poetry anymore because it makes me feel a little frustrated because I'm not good at it. When I was drinking, I felt good at it, just like I felt good at singing and dancing and all of these things. But when I'm not drinking, I kind of realize I'm not good at any of those things. Um, but and I can't seem to get myself to do it. When I'm alone in the house, I will sing, but it takes an hour or so to actually sing loud, because I crawl inside myself, um, and hide. So how do we how do we fend it off? Fending off loneliness. That was what the topic was this morning. How do I fend off this feeling of loneliness, this feeling of not wanting to connect with people, not wanting people to pull me out of it? Um, I think the first thing for me, is to notice it. The second thing is to soften myself towards it, like give myself grace, like I would if I was a little girl. If I went back to those days when I felt lonely as a little girl, look at myself like that. I talk about that a lot, is that little girl that was lonely. She's still inside of me, and she still doesn't know what to do when she feels lonely. Um, and it's my job as an adult to tell her that it's okay. It's my job to tell that little girl inside of me that it's okay to feel this way. And this is what you do. That's what I've learned in my sobriety, is that I have the tools. People in my sobriety program have talked to me about the tools, by sharing their own experience, strength, and hope. Um, they have talked to me about reaching out, going to meetings, going to support group meetings now that I'm in stroke recovery, vestibular support group meetings, um, doing things that are enjoyable to me, picking up the phone. I've always been uh, bad at it. Bad at it? Yeah, I'm bad at it. I'm bad at reaching out. And what I know is that I need to do is do it anyway. I talk about that a lot in my podcast is when I get up in the morning and I remind myself that I'm an alcoholic and a stroke survivor, and I feel that sinking feeling, which happens still sometimes, I get up anyway. I put 2 feet on the ground anyway. And when I don't want to pick up the phone, I do it anyway. When I don't want to hit record, I do it anyway. That's the next right thing. I told my psychiatrist this morning, I still haven't gotten to the really cool conversation we were talking about, but I told her that there's a voice inside of me when I'm doing something that I shouldn't be, that it is going to trigger my symptoms. There's a voice inside of me that says stop, and I ignore it. It's like I was telling her, if I go on Instagram and I see Duke, there's a dog named Duke, and this just lovely older woman who, sorry, if you're listening, I don't know if you're older or not, so don't mean to be offensive, but she's got a lovely, like, grandma voice to me. And I just love listening to the video. So this dog named Duke, she calls him Dookie, and he's a senior citizen, and he struggles with possession issues. Like, so he'll go get something and bring it to his bed, and if she tries to go take it from him, he will growl at her. And so she's been working with him for many, many months to try to get him to stop doing that. And it's so cute because he goes into this room. So she's sitting on the couch and the camera is really still. It's wonderful for my disorder because the camera is not moving. And she faces it towards this room. It's like down the hallway in an office. And what all you can see from where she sits is this chair, and on the chair there's a bunch of stuffed animals. And so the dog goes into the room and he's going there to get a toy. It's like his toy room, and it's like her office or something also. So Dookie goes into the room and all you can hear is just rustling down the hallway. You can hear rustling. You can hear that he's doing something in there. And you can hear her saying, Dookie, what are you doing? What are you doing, Dookie? And then all of a sudden, Duke comes around the corner and starts walking down the hallway with some object that is bigger than him. And he's a golden retriever. He's a large dog. And he starts walking down the hallway towards her with this very large object that's bigger than him. Either it's a box or it's a laundry basket or something just bizarre, a lamp. It could be anything. And then he takes the object to his bed and he lays with it. And sometimes he's very challenged. The object is so big that it takes up his whole bed and it's difficult for him to lay down. But I just get a kick out of listening to this dog or watching this dog and listening to her voice. It's just, it makes my day. She doesn't know this. She doesn't know me from anyone. But I just love it. She's got thousands of followers. And I always look for her videos when I go onto Instagram. So those of you who know me and have been lifetime listeners know that I shouldn't be doing that, right? I shouldn't be listening or watching a video because I can't do that without pain. So once I do, then I'm like, oh, well, maybe I can watch another video. And I close my eyes and I scroll to the next video. I open my eyes and I see what that is. And immediately my head starts hurting and I feel nauseous, but I do it anyway. It's like I get to that point where I'm like, is the reward worth the pain? The answer is no. The only one that I can really look at and feel pretty okay afterwards is watching Dookie. So I was telling my psychiatrist about this, and I said, um, I constantly am trying to do these things that I can't do, that make me feel bad. And then I complain about having to take a nap. And I, and so the difference is when you have a disorder that is invisible, I don't know when to say when. Because a lot of times when I'm doing something, I don't feel the pain until maybe 5 minutes afterwards. Um, and I said, it's very different between my disorder and somebody who had a stroke and becomes paralyzed, like I was talking about earlier, or has severe aphasia because other people can see it. Other people can see like either you fall down or you can't speak or like you can tell when somebody who is learning how to walk again is having a hard time doing it, if that makes sense. I'm having a really hard time articulating this. But for me, like, okay, so there's a friend of mine whose husband had a stroke and he's learning how to walk again. And it's been very inspiring for me. If people who had a stroke start immediately, they're more likely to be able to pick up these tasks that they lost from their stroke. So he's doing the classic, like holding onto a handrail. There's a nurse who rolls her chair beside him and moves his right leg for him. And he's practicing walking. And it's beautiful to see this happening. He's relearning that task. And I'm really happy for them. So when I look at my disorder and I think, well, if people who lost their ability to walk can learn how to walk again, why can't I learn how to look at things that move again? And so I keep trying to do that. I keep trying to open my eyes and in the car or open my eyes when we're listening to TV at night. When I'm listening to TV at night and my husband's watching it, I'll look at the TV, and I keep challenging myself to do that. And there's a certain point where it's okay to challenge myself, but it's really difficult to find that fine line from challenging myself and pushing myself too far. And most of the time, if I look for more than, I don't know, we'll say 10 seconds, I've pushed myself too far. Um, so having a disorder where I can only feel when things are worse than being able to see when things are getting worse is really difficult. So my psychiatrist said, maybe you can go on Instagram and you can find the video of Dookie and look at that video of Dookie and then shut Instagram. That voice inside of me is saying, stop. After I see Dookie, it's saying stop and I don't listen to it. So I'm going to practice doing that. And why does this have to do with loneliness? It just does. It's all correlated to me. When I'm not able to do things that other people can do, like look at a video on Instagram, I feel a bit disconnected from the world, really. It probably wouldn't be this much of an issue if we weren't living in the age of the internet. But when I am not able to watch cute videos and do the things and get that joy um, from the internet that other people can, I start feeling sorry for myself. I start feeling disconnected from people, and I feel lonely. So I think it's a compromise, a good compromise for me to start to pick a video that I want to watch that makes me feel happy, but it doesn't risk my internal safety, like safety response, where it starts to affect me physically and then it starts to affect me mentally and emotionally. So watching Dookie is going to be my test. So I am going to reach out to the what it's called Life with Duke is the handle on Instagram, and she's on all the different social media networks. But I'm going to reach out to Life with Dookie and I'm going to tell her what she does for me, and that'll be adorable, I think. Um, and I'm going to allow myself to watch that video and then listen to my voice that tells me to stop. So that voice that tells me to pick up the phone and call people, and I don't, is the same voice that tells me to stop looking at videos or stop opening my eyes in the car because you're going to feel sick, and I don't listen to it. Um, so I need to work on my relationship with that voice and be compassionate towards myself. Um, Allow myself to keep those connections, but be going back to that little girl inside of me, tell her what she can and can't do, and stop letting her throw a fit. Stop letting her stomp her feet and say, but I wanna, but I wanna be able to do all these things. Well, you just can't. You can't. Um, so I think that all of this, just talking it out, may help with these feelings that I'm having that I'm just not feeling completely right now. Um, so I think today was a successful day, being able to work through that. I don't know where I would be today if I didn't have this podcast to talk through it. And if I didn't have my psychiatrist, my solution is opening my mouth and talking about what is wrong. And I hope that if nothing else you get from this podcast, it is to encourage you to open your mouth and talk about what is wrong. That is where healing is. It's so easy to close up and capture all those feelings and stuff them down into our dark place. And I am adamant that we must not do that. And we must talk about the feelings that are going on in our hearts, the thoughts between our ears, because they can become our enemy. So, that's all I've got today. Thank you so much for listening and helping me talk through my stuff. And hopefully it helps you with your stuff. That's why I'm here. That's why I do this, is to hopefully help my pain have more of an impact than just on myself, to let it help others grow and not just me. So thanks for listening today, and I will see you next time.